Guys, I recently got to play in the 31st annual Pacific Coast Open, and let me tell you something. This tournament was stacked. Multiple GMs, multiple IMs, multiple FMs, multiple NMs, probably multiple CMs. Just a stacked tournament. It was a lot of fun. I actually just posted, by the time you see this, posted all 6 games on my Advanced Hippopotamus Defense course, so I added more content onto there. I had 5 hippos, 1 tiger, all of it's covered in depth over on the advanced course. So I just added that, adding to the tournament games section. If you want to see all 6 games, make sure to go check out the advanced course link below. But today I'm going to be showing you round 2, in which case I played the tiger against a GM by the name of, as you can see here, Fidel Corrales Jimenez. And yeah, I mean, you know, his over-the-board rating is pretty good. I mean, 2574. I'm going to guess his online rating is 2900. So, you know, he's okay. He's okay at chess. Going into the game, I know the odds are against me. Okay, I know that. I'm going, you know what? I'm going to go for the win. Hopefully I can make an upset. I'm going to try my very best. I've been feeling confident in the hippo and the tiger. But I told myself, if I don't win, let's make it a good fight. Let's make it a good game. Let's not lose in 20 moves. On what move did I resign? Let's just not talk about that, okay? Let's not talk about the exact move I resigned. All right, I don't want to. I don't want to. Here we go. He plays e4. I went with the usual 1, 2, and 3. And for the 4th tournament game in a row, I see bishop to e3, and I'm like, oh my gosh, everyone loves playing this against me all of a sudden. I had hardly ever seen this in tournament chess for a long time. I don't know if it's because I play the hippo or what, but a lot of players are doing this against me. Okay, fine. a6. We're back into the tiger. I don't usually play the tiger against most setups, but if you're going to play bishop e3, if you're going to play f3, if you're going to play h4, and then f3 or bishop e3 or whatever, okay, fine. We're going into the tiger defense, which is when you very quickly play a6, looking for b5 taking space. He goes with g4, which is not very common online, but GMs seem to love that move. We have h4, h6. So far, everything's going fine. Bishop g2, I fianchetto. And here, he plays f4. Now, I've never seen this up until this point, ever, playing the tiger. I've never seen a 5-pawn center. You'll hear me talking in videos about 3-pawn center, 4-pawn center with the hippo. A 5-pawn center, it's rare that happens, okay? A lot of GMs I've played in the past, similar to my style, they're, you know, they incrementally improve. They slowly take the space. Not this guy. Fidel just takes what he wants. And this is a sound position. We're not losing at all. It's like plus 0.3 about for white, which is pretty standard for mainline openings, actually. I ended up going with knight d7, the engine move. And here he played a move that shocked me. Now, either I guess there's 3 options. The first one is he's a genius, and he came up with it on the spot. I don't know. Maybe. I'm not saying he's not a genius, okay? I'm just saying this movie you're about to see is just so weird. That, or he already had this memorized in general, or he prepped for me. My guess is the third, okay? He plays bishop f3, and the engine loves this move. Stockfish loves this idea. I have never seen this in my life. 5 pawns and a bishop coming to f3. Are we okay? Turns out to be a pretty genius idea. You're making it so that your bishop is defended, so white can actually think about e5 more often than they usually would against the tiger because this bishop is defended. Usually, we don't see fianchettos against the tiger, but if we do, it's usually not on f3. So that's one reason g4 is also protected, so us kicking this knight and then attacking 2 different pawns and threatening them, that's just not a thing because the bishop defends g4. Now, in the game I played c5. This is the regular type of, you know, option coming out of the hippo, the regular idea. When the game ended, I asked him, where did I go wrong? And he said, maybe c5, basically. And then that was all he said. Okay. Turns out he's right. Okay. Stockfish here has multiple moves that it likes. For those of you that have the advanced course, you have those lines that I put on the Lee Chess Studies. I'll show you one of them here. The one that I initially like, now that I know this line, is knight gf6. Okay, that's the one I like the most. The other moves that Stockfish looks at are e5, which is not a common concept at all, and b4, which makes sense. But I kind of like knight f6, right? We're putting pressure on these pawns. We are threatening b4, kicking the knight and then snatching off e4. If they play the engine move, we can now take on g4. If you take our knight, thanks for the rook, we're flying in. If you take our bishop, engine move, only a move that's better for white, we take your bishop on e3. Queen e2. What do we do about this? We can run to f5. And from this point, guys, I'm not even going to try to explain to you why the engine is saying this stuff. For most of it, I don't know. Okay? I'm sorry. I don't know. The engine just plays crazy stuff in these kinds of positions. The engine goes, hey, you know what? I don't want the rook. I'm going to go e6. Black takes. We have castling queenside. I mean, how often do you see this tension here with neither side caring? And black continues to not care with rook f7. White apparently should go there. Black goes to b8 finally. The bishop runs. The knight runs to f8, hanging on to both of these pawns that were just hanging a second ago, by the way. h5, this is all the engine line. We have rook b6. White defends it. We get rid of the bishop because we feel like it. Queen e8. Queen e4 defending the pawn. d5. And apparently white with a slight edge. Okay? Apparently. Again, guys, this line here is just insane. The whole thing. I mean, I'm never finding these moves. Come on. Who's finding these? Not human at all. Okay. Now, will I memorize this line? I might. I just actually skipped ahead a little bit more. But there you go. So I got to figure out if I ever do see the setup again. I highly doubt I ever will. I mean, who's going to play a 5-pawn center and bishop f3? But if I do see this prep again, I got to have something ready. I got to figure out which line to memorize. And I think that's what a lot of GMs do. They go into a game, they memorize something, and they know that if you don't follow the line they memorize, you made a mistake. So there you go. This game, in a lot of ways, isn't the most special in terms of practicality, because you're not going to see this all the time, but it's definitely interesting. Again, bishop f3 was played here, and I went with c5. Now, what makes this move so genius is that they can push e5 at some point, including right now, and actually fight against our tiger bishop on b7, and the bishop's protected. Okay? Now, here, of course, he goes with the engine capturing. Apparently here I'm supposed to take on c3, or at least think about it, and then take back with my knight. I didn't like taking with the knight in general because of bishop d4. I could move my rook to h7. Apparently this is playable. I'm just going to let y'all know I don't like it, okay? I'm not about that in this position. Now, taking with the pawn is what I went with, which turned out to be a mistake. I was trying to prevent this, which I did, but you'll see what happens. Apparently I'm supposed to take with the knight. Okay, now I was concerned about bishop d4, which is often a concern in the tiger, but here I have the option of e5 available. You take, I take, we're fine. You take, I don't have to take back. I can go knight e6, nasty idea. You take here. I got two minor pieces looking at your bishop on d4, two of them. If e5, queen c7 is an option, playable position from this point, right? And we have a little bit of development and activity with that knight on c5. But once white captured, I just took with the pawn right away, and now e5 was played. And this is a very difficult position. This is not a normal situation when you're playing the tiger for your opponent to push a pawn to the 5th rank with a pawn supporting it, with a supported bishop going against your bishop on b7. Anyway, I played queen c7. Engine liked that move. Knight d5. The engine liked what I did here. Here, I went with the engine move again, rook c8. Castling queenside here, I made a mistake. Apparently, I'm supposed to play e6. I still think I would have lost pretty quickly here. Queen d6, queen b7. I mean, just a nasty position for me to have to deal with. I mean, that weakens d6 so much. But it's hard because I can't even move my knight out, right? I played knight b6. The queen ended up flying in, and I tried to complicate things here, guys. I could have took the queen, but the bishop flies in, and that's nasty. So I play g5. I'm just trying to make the game interesting, trying to complicate as much as I can, trying to break open this diagonal to get some counterplay. The queen took. I took on f4. We have check. If I block with my knight, I mean, you're pinning my knight. You have a rook looking at it. That did not look fun at all. So I ran with the king, and then here I played knight f6. I'm just trying to develop when I can, because this pawn does attack the knight. The only reason they can't take, which he technically could have, but it does give me some life. It does give me some counterplay. Like, oh my gosh, I can breathe. Check. The queen takes. My knight's defended. I'm looking this direction. This all of a sudden is becoming a hard position for white to play. But here in GM fashion, this is the thing about GMs. If you can't do anything in your position, they know. If you're stuck, they know. If you're stuck in traffic in your game, they know. If you're late, they know. If you're going to be late to work, they know. They know. I can't do anything here. He plays a4. I missed this move. Nasty idea. Very nice move. Just pushing the sideline pawn. That is such a dangerous concept that not a lot of players think about enough. That's a passed pawn. There is no pawn that can stop it, and he's just going to start pushing it down. Now, I thought about a bunch of different moves. I thought about bringing this knight back, but then a5. This knight's attacked. If I move it, wait a second, d7 falls. I mean, just crazy. Just a crazy position here for me. If I bring my knight back, I mean, come on. What am I doing here? My knight can't even move now. And I'm down 2 pawns. This is not compensation. I got excited about rook b8. I did. I got excited about this for a second. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm okay. Maybe this is some kind of genius. Not like I'm genius, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying maybe this is some kind of crazy counterattacking thing. I'm thinking he's not going to take the knight. But if he did, okay, check. If he take, boom, bishop takes f6. I got all of a sudden a lot of pressure, a lot of activity here. Maybe king g7. I'm in business. I'm thinking, okay, what if a5? Well, now my knight can move. I'm attacking the queen, right? The queen runs, boom, I take the bishop. The queen takes, knight d7. Yeah, I'm down a couple of pawns, but, I mean, they got those pawns that are very targetable. The rook looking down at b2. But then I eventually realized, wait a second. They don't have to wait for me to do this. They don't have to kick me into what I want to do. They don't have to take. He can just take the square that my rook left. And I'm just cooked. If I run with the queen, they take my knight. So I ended up in that position playing knight bd7, knowing darn well it was dead losing. He played what I expected, which was queen b7. I resigned on move freaking 20. That's what happened. Anyway, that said, guys, as crazy as it sounds, I don't even think I played that bad. I don't look at this game and go, gosh, how did I not see that? I just didn't know the theory. This position here has been reached 16 times in the history of chess when I looked on an online site. Of course, you got to look at different sites and see what's what. But yeah, I mean, this is just, just not a normal theme and concept. But now you know, if you see this, okay? You have that line that you could memorize this if you want to, guys. You could memorize this whole thing. Okay? I don't know if it would really help you a ton, but you could. But there you go. Okay, again, I played c5. He's able to take and then play e5. And my position just crumbles. I just can't develop my king side at all. This entire side is just... Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's just what it is. So again, I don't even think I played that bad. Maybe some of y'all did think I played that bad. If you did, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, again, c5 is usually the right concept, but apparently when they have a 5-pawn center and the bishop is fianchettoed and protected on f3 and their knight is on g1, usually the knight comes here, not the bishop, but okay, I'm supposed to go here, here, or here, and in any of those lines, complications go crazy. All right. Hope you all enjoyed this video. See you in the next one. Y'all, I wanted to finish this video out by giving a quick shout out to my Patreon supporters, including Walter, Rob, Ray, Roger, Jerry, and Gary. Appreciate y'all a ton, as well as the rest of my Patreon community. If you're interested in joining, there are some exclusive benefits that you gain by becoming a member, and I look forward to seeing you guys over there. Peace.